Nobody is yelling. Nobody is storming off. Nobody is throwing insults across the room. And yet, this is the most unsettling version of Amy Slaton we have seen. She is quieter now, careful with words, emotion tucked away instead of spilling out. Fans tuned in expecting chaos, another blow-up, another loud breaking point. What showed up instead was silence, and silence hits harder. Amy is present, but she feels far away, like someone already halfway out the door. Tammy sits across from her, calm, steady, guarded, no longer chasing peace or fighting for it. The bond that once survived everything feels thin, almost formal. When fights disappear, but warmth does too, something deeper is shifting. Because when the noise stops and the distance grows, you start wondering what broke without anyone touching it. So if nobody is fighting anymore, why does it feel worse than ever? Last season did not end softly. Amy and Tammy did not drift apart by accident. They collided. Hard. The argument was loud, messy, and emotional, the kind fans expected from years of built-up tension. Hurt feelings spilled out. Lines were crossed. And when the cameras cut, most people assumed the usual pattern would follow. Some space, a few tears, then a reunion where everyone hugs and promises to do better. That has been the rhythm of this family for a long time. Blow up, cool down, patch it up, repeat. Season 8 opens with none of that energy. No apologies, no big sit-down, no forced healing. Instead, everything feels slower. Conversations pause longer. Jokes land softer. Even the rooms feel quieter. Amy and Tammy share space, but not closeness. The warmth that used to carry them through awkward moments feels missing. You can sense people choosing words more carefully, like everyone learned what happens when emotions spill too fast. Older seasons felt chaotic in a familiar way. Tammy would react, Amy would mediate, someone would crack a joke, and the family would wobble forward together. Now the balance looks different. Amy is focused on planning a wedding and shaping a future outside the family bubble. She talks about schedules, logistics, next steps. Tammy, on the other hand, looks settled, calmer, less reactive. She talks about routines, boundaries, and protecting her peace. Both women are moving forward, but not toward each other. There is light humor, but it lands differently. The laughs feel shorter, like everyone is checking the room before going too far. Family scenes feel polite instead of playful. Even when nothing bad happens, something feels off. The absence of drama becomes its own kind of tension, because when everything looks calm on the surface, the quiet starts asking questions nobody wants to answer yet. Amy's wedding plans should feel joyful, but they also signal distance. A new chapter means new priorities. Tammy's stability should feel like a win, and it is, but stability comes with limits. She no longer jumps into emotional messes. She steps back instead. The sisters are no longer playing the roles that once glued them together. One used to carry emotions for both. The other used to need saving. Those roles are gone. What we are watching is not fallout from one argument. It is the after effect of years of shared struggle finally loosening its grip. The distance between Amy and Tammy is not loud. It is steady. And it is not accidental. The reason becomes clear later, but for now, the silence is doing most of the talking. Amy looks tired in a way sleep doesn't fix. Not dramatic tired. Not falling apart tired. It's the kind that shows up in how she talks now. Shorter sentences, practical language, everything framed around timing, plans, next steps, logistics instead of feelings. She isn't avoiding emotion on purpose. She's managing it, and management has become her survival skill. For years, Amy carried the emotional load of this family. She translated Tammy's pain. She softened conflicts. She absorbed tension so others didn't have to. Motherhood added another layer to that weight. Public attention added pressure. Cameras never stop watching, and neither do expectations. Somewhere along the way, Amy learned that if she stayed busy, stayed productive, stayed forward facing, she wouldn't have to sit with how overwhelmed she actually feels. That's why the wedding feels symbolic more than joyful. On paper, it's a celebration, a milestone, a fresh chapter. But emotionally, it reads like a declaration of independence, a structure, a line in the sand that says, "This is mine, this is forward, this is controlled." She talks about details because details are safe. Details don't ask how she's really doing. Details don't fall apart when emotions do. Amy's independence is real. It's a strength. She's capable, decisive, and determined to build something stable for her children. But that same independence has also become armor. It keeps her moving so she doesn't have to pause. It keeps conversations shallow so they don't tip into vulnerability. And when independence turns into isolation, it quietly reshapes every relationship around it. There's empathy here that matters. Amy didn't wake up one day and choose distance. She earned it. Years of emotional labor don't disappear without consequence. When someone has been the emotional glue for so long, pulling back isn't selfish. It's inevitable. The problem is that relief doesn't always look like healing. Sometimes it just looks like numbness with better organization. Motherhood complicates everything. Amy has learned to put needs in boxes. Kids first. Responsibilities first. Emotions later, if there's time. Add public scrutiny, and there's even less space to be messy. She knows people are watching, judging, comparing. Strength becomes performance whether she wants it to or not. Still, something feels off. Not wrong, just unresolved. Amy speaks with confidence, but there's a distance behind it. She's stepping into a future she's chosen, yet she feels strangely alone inside it. The more she moves forward, the less she checks who's still walking beside her. A fair counterpoint matters here. Amy pulling back didn't come out of nowhere. She has given more than most people realize. She has been the emotional buffer, the peacekeeper, the responsible one. Wanting less chaos isn't avoidance. It's exhaustion speaking. But exhaustion doesn't always lead you where you think it will. Because when you build your life around function instead of connection, the silence doesn't feel peaceful for long. Amy is not failing. She's not cold. She's adapting. The question isn't whether she deserves space. She does. The question is whether the way she's creating it is costing her something she hasn't noticed yet. She's stepping forward into independence, structure, and control. But while she moves ahead, someone else isn't following. And that shift is quiet enough to miss until the distance becomes too wide to ignore. Tammy is no longer reacting to everything. That alone feels shocking. The sharp comebacks are gone. The emotional spirals don't arrive on cue. Instead, she pauses. She listens. Sometimes she doesn't respond at all. Where there used to be intensity, there is now restraint. And that restraint changes the entire dynamic. Tammy moves through scenes with a sense of control that once felt impossible. She sticks to routines. She chooses when to engage. She walks away when conversations start leaning toward chaos. This version of Tammy surprises people because it doesn't fit the old narrative. For years, she was framed as the emotional center of every problem, the one who exploded, the one who needed managing. Now she's the most stable person in the room, and stability comes with boundaries. She no longer absorbs other people's stress. She no longer over-explains her feelings. She protects her energy carefully, even when that protection looks like distance. That distance isn't punishment. It's maintenance. Tammy has learned that peace doesn't come from fixing everyone else. It comes from not stepping into situations that pull her backward. She chooses calm over closeness when closeness feels unsafe. She keeps conversations short. She disengages when emotions rise too fast. And for the first time, Tammy is prioritizing long-term stability over short-term comfort. What makes this shift uncomfortable is how it changes the power balance between the sisters. Amy used to be the emotional anchor, the caretaker, the one who translated feelings and smoothed conflicts. Tammy needed that role once. She doesn't anymore. And when one person outgrows the dynamic that defined a relationship, the other person feels the loss immediately. Tammy isn't being cruel. She isn't cold. She's consistent. She shows up, but she doesn't chase. She listens, but she doesn't carry the emotional weight for both of them. That's healthy behavior, even if it stings. Boundaries heal the person who sets them, but they often hurt the people who were used to unlimited access. There's a behavioral truth here that's easy to miss. When someone grows, they don't become more available. They become more selective. Tammy isn't rejecting Amy. She's protecting herself from slipping back into patterns that once nearly destroyed her. That protection looks like emotional distance, even when love is still present. Amy feels that change deeply. The sister who once absorbed her stress no longer does. The person who once met her emotion with equal intensity now responds with calm detachment. And calm can feel like indifference when you're used to chaos as connection. Because when someone stops reacting the way they used to, it forces everyone else to confront what they were relying on. Tammy's progress is real. Her routines matter. Her relationships are steadier. Her emotional regulation is stronger. None of that is fake or performative. But growth shifts gravity. It changes who reaches for whom. And right now, Amy and Tammy are both making healthy choices that don't align. Tammy chooses boundaries. Amy chooses expansion. Neither choice is wrong. But together, they create space. Not explosive space, quiet space. And that space keeps widening, even though both women are doing what they were always told was best for them. The tension doesn't stop with Amy and Tammy. It spreads quietly through the rest of the family, settling into places that used to feel safe. Chris and Brittany feel it first. Small health changes become big stressors. New routines, food rules, different priorities. None of it sounds dramatic on its own, but together it creates friction. Conversations turn practical. Less teasing, more checking in. Even encouragement starts to feel heavy when everyone is tired of trying to do things the right way. Chris wants progress. He wants structure. Brittany wants peace. She wants things to feel normal again. Neither is wrong, but the space between intention and energy keeps widening. You can hear it in their voices. Shorter answers, longer pauses. Support that exists, but feels strained by repetition. Amanda's medical concerns shift the tone even more. Real health fear changes how people show up. Jokes land cautiously. Everyone listens a little harder. The room carries an undercurrent of worry that never fully leaves. When health becomes uncertain, patience thins. Emotional reserves get guarded. People stop volunteering comfort because they don't know how much they have left. Family gatherings still happen, but they feel different, polite, careful. Chairs slightly farther apart. Conversations that start and stop without landing anywhere. Someone laughs, then quiet follows. Someone asks a question, then changes the subject halfway through the answer. No one wants to push. No one wants to open something they can't close. You notice it in the pauses, in the way people look at each other before speaking, in how often phones come out just to fill space. The family is together, but everyone feels alone in their own way. Emotional crowding without emotional connection. Because when everyone is carrying something heavy, support stops feeling endless and starts feeling rationed. There's no villain here, just fatigue. Health journeys demand discipline. Medical scares demand attention. Emotional repair demands energy that no one seems to have spare anymore. So people do what they can. They show up. They nod. They listen. But the warmth that once held everything together feels thinner. Even moments meant to bring comfort feel transactional. Are you okay? I'm fine. Let me know if you need anything. Sure, the words are right, but the tone is careful, like everyone is afraid of asking for too much. This isn't conflict in the explosive sense. It's erosion, a slow wearing down of emotional availability. The family still loves each other. That's clear. But love doesn't refill energy by itself. It needs rest. It needs space. It needs honesty. And right now, everyone is conserving. The house feels full, but the support feels stretched. People are choosing what to respond to and what to let pass, not because they don't care, but because caring has started to cost more than it used to. Support is still there. It hasn't disappeared, but it's running low. And when emotional resources drop, even strong families start moving carefully, hoping nothing else tips the balance. Online, the reaction was immediate and split. Some fans felt confused. Others felt disappointed. A lot of people felt uneasy without fully knowing why. Comment sections filled with questions instead of jokes. Why does Amy seem so distant? Why does Tammy feel checked out? When did everything get so quiet? Viewers who were used to loud emotion didn't recognize this version of the family, and silence made people suspicious. Some comments went too far. Amy was accused of being selfish, of choosing herself at the wrong time. Tammy was labeled cold, ungrateful, detached. But those takes miss something important. This didn't happen overnight. What we're seeing now is not a sudden betrayal. It's the long-term result of years of shared stress finally changing shape. Amy didn't abandon anyone. She built a life where she could breathe. Tammy didn't shut anyone out. She stopped letting emotional chaos define her days. The problem is that growth doesn't arrive evenly. One person steps forward, another steps back. And from the outside, it's hard to tell which direction is right. Fans are reacting not just to the sisters, but to what this situation reflects back at them. Because most people know what it feels like to outgrow a role they never asked for. Most people know what it's like to protect peace and be misunderstood for it. That's why opinions are so strong. Everyone sees themselves in a different place in this story. There's discomfort in watching people make healthy choices that still hurt. Viewers want a clean answer, a villain, a moment where someone apologizes and everything clicks back into place. But life rarely works that way, especially when family history runs deep. Because when you stop surviving together, you have to relearn how to choose each other, and that process is never neat. If you were in Amy's position, carrying years of emotional labor, public pressure, and motherhood, would you slow down for connection or keep moving for stability? If you were Tammy, finally feeling balanced and safe, would you risk that peace to meet someone else's emotional pace? These aren't theoretical questions. They're the quiet choices people make every day without cameras. The audience feels the tension because it hasn't resolved yet. There's no closure to react to. Just movement, shifts, distance that hasn't hardened into separation, but hasn't softened into repair either. Fans aren't wrong to feel unsettled. The story hasn't told them what to feel yet. What's clear is that the bond between Amy and Tammy still exists. It shows up in small looks, in moments of restraint, in what isn't said. But bonds don't stay strong on memory alone. They need intention, timing, energy that's currently being spent elsewhere. So viewers keep watching, waiting for something definitive. A conversation, a breakthrough, a crack in the quiet. Until then, reactions will keep pouring in, each one shaped by personal experience rather than clear answers. The relationship isn't over. It's not healed either. It's paused in a space that feels uncomfortable to witness because it mirrors something many people recognize but don't like to name. Season 8 leaves viewers staring at something they didn't expect. Amy is moving forward, carving a life where she can breathe and plan for her future. Independence has a price, though. It gives her space, yes, but it also pulls her out of the emotional rhythm she once shared with Tammy. The sister who used to be her constant anchor now feels just out of reach. Silence has replaced chaos, and that absence weighs heavier than any fight ever did. Meanwhile, Tammy is quiet, measured, and surprisingly steady. Boundaries guide her days, and she chooses calm over drama. Stability isn't cruelty, but it changes everything. The emotional scales have tipped. The sister who once leaned on Amy now carries her own weight. and that distance is felt in every glance and every short conversation. Growth has shifted the balance, and neither of them is wrong for taking care of themselves. Love still exists between them, but it doesn't look the way viewers expect. There's no spectacle, no dramatic reconciliation. Instead, there's a subtle truth. Sometimes love survives because it adapts, and sometimes it survives despite distance. The family is still together, but the glue of shared struggle has loosened. Season 8 tests whether bonds can endure when the people who once held them are no longer moving at the same pace. The quiet tension, the restrained gestures, the carefully chosen words, these are the proof points of what's at stake. Each choice, each step forward or back, carries consequences that ripple through the family. And just because nothing has broken doesn't mean nothing has changed. Silence is not empty, it's full of meaning. Fans may have expected spectacle, but what they got was a reflection of the hard work it takes to grow without leaving each other behind completely. Next time, we'll see what happens when avoidance stretches too long, and one small moment later in the season quietly proves that even silence cannot hold everything in place forever.